Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you for so much tuning in on this lovely Wednesday evening. I am the maestro, Jeremy Cox, alongside the Cowardly Lion, otherwise known as James Knox. I don't even know. James, what the hell are you supposed to be?
I'm the Cowardly Lion. See, I got my bow in my ears and everything up here, and
That's great. That is just awesome. First off, aren't you hot in that thing?
I am burning up right now. I guarantee you that I'm losing the beard and the hair before too long.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. Right now, I just announced I want to announce I got a new job. As you can tell by the attire, I am now an NFL referee. So I can think of plenty of referee names you can give me. Jerome Boger being the best one of them all.
That's yeah. I'll be nice to you since
it was another bad week.
Yeah.
It was another bad week in the world of football, fantasy and reality. At least for me. Probably everybody else had a great one, but mine sucked.
I won.
Yeah, well, I won. Let's put it this way. I won in the league that I'm glad I also won in, but in the one with my close friends, yeah, I once again lost, badly. Okay, but we got to cut to the chase because today is our special Halloween episode of Roundabout Sports. And we are going to be showcasing the best and the worst sports logos in the history of sports.
Sorry, my hair was covering up my bow.
Well, there's plenty to choose from in the long, illustrious history of professional sports. And, we'll even go into some minor league ones because, come on, the Savannah Bananas are just that epic. That said, although I'll have a hard time seeing them, we have a lot to talk about before that. And kudos to the St. Louis Cardinals organization for giving us a lot of material to work with. And I mean a lot.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
So 5 new moves have occurred within I should say 4. Yeah, 4 have occurred. The 5th interesting move was the fact that Wainwright is returning for his 18th season. And I expected it because, and I know James, you did too, because come on, how is he not going to pitch in the playoffs and be done for the career? That's not how Wainwright's going in.
Yep.
But we're going to start first with, we're going to go back to Tuesday and the news that former St. Louis Cardinal player and former bench coach Skip Schumacher took the job as the new manager of the Miami Marlins. So, James, I want to start with you on this. What do you think about Schumacher leaving the Cardinals, becoming the first-time head manager for the Marlins?
Well, if I was saying that I wasn't sad about it, I'd be lying. No, anyway, I'm happy for Skip. I'm happy the fact that he's got himself a managerial job. I kind of mentioned the episode where we had Sadie on that, it may be a situation where he would be the only one that would leave the staff, and, getting a head coaching job in Miami following Don Mattingly may have big standards in Skip's book. But really, when it comes down to it, I think it's a good place for him to start, especially if he has success. I mean, he's got a killer pitching staff with Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez is there. They've got some really good young live arms. So, it really could be a situation where he kind of meets the standard and actually pushes the bar, which would get him noticed going forward for more prolific jobs.
One controversy that has happened that over the past day and a half is, like I said, Skip Schumacher is the first-time manager, and there's a lot more candidates out there that have a lot more experience as a manager. And reporters, former players, analysts have called out the Marlins organization on the fact that they went to Skip Schumacher. I mean, is it really that big of an issue
No, and we've talked about this before. How is somebody supposed to get experience if you won't give them a chance to grab that experience? Plus, he's been around baseball. He's won World Series. He was a bench coach in St. Louis. He was a bench coach in San Diego. I mean, he knows the game. I mean, that's like telling Wayne Gretzky that he shouldn't be a hockey analyst or teach the game. It's dumb. I mean, who the hell? I mean, give Skip a chance. I mean, you've heard numerous people close to him, like Brad Thompson, who's on the fast lane and played with Skip in '06 and won a World Series. You've heard other people say, look, he knows the game. Why not give him the chance?
Exactly. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. I mean, I look at it to where you look at some of these broadcasters that didn't have any experience, but they got their foot in the door, and that's how you learn. That's how you become better at it. You know, everybody starts to try to not quote the song, but I guess I have to at this point. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
I thought,
Go on with that.
I thought you were going to say, hear me roar. I can't help myself tonight. I'm sorry. That's okay. But, you know, I am the lion, so I must be the main event. Speaking of, I'm taking this damn hair off. I am burning up.
Yeah, it's gonna be soon when the sunglasses are probably gonna have to come off. I'm not gonna lie, it's weird staring at the screen.
Ah, whew.
Once again, like I said, it is a pleasure to have you on. I do have some people that are saying they're not able to hear me.
Right.
Well, we had this issue coming on to the show where we were not able to hear. Let me actually see if that works. Well, let's see. Okay. Maybe
Whoa.
is that better?
You know, generally I would say that you would have double vision. I swear to God, I have double hearing right now.
Well, I'll take what I can get. I mean,
You,
how's that
you,
sound?
you sound like you're in the bottom of a well.
Is it too loud or too soft?
There's an echo.
Is there an echo? Well,
Echo,
yeah.
echo, echo.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh.
God.
That can't be good. All right. Well, we'll try this. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is it a bad echo?
It's still terrible.
Oh gosh.
See, this is what we get for having a Halloween version of this show because, like, right.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. Better.
Get better.
All right. We're gonna try something first.
Uh-oh.
Just for the heck of it. All right. But James is gonna be on standby, folks. This is the best part about live programs. We get to experience the good and well, not so good. So give us 1 second because we got a lot of Cardinal stuff we still need to talk about.
Hang on. So I've gotten text messages from people that are watching, and they're saying that you don't have an echo for them, and apparently they can hear us both right now. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do what you got to do, brother.
All right. Well.
Yep. Everybody's saying they can't hear you. So maybe you have to have an echo. Oh, now I can't hear you.
Let's try that.
Okay.
All
right, everybody. Let's try this one more time. Can you hear Jeremy?
Yeah, let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Can James hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, then
Can you hear me now?
Then I have no idea what the hell we just did.
I don't either.
All right, we're in business. They can hear me. Okay.
And no echo, so we're good to go.
Okay, well,
that's some crazy ass
shit. If we had figured that out about 15 minutes ago, we would have been fine.
I know, right? I actually got that joke. So
yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Put him up. Put him up.
Put them up. Put them up. All right. Now that everybody can hear me and hear James, and I can put these damn sunglasses back on just for a little bit. All right. So.
All right, Stevie Wonder, what you got?
All right. Let me tell you something right now. He's one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Very superstitious. This show has already become.
This is. I'm telling you right now, folks. You cannot beat live podcasting. It doesn't get much better than this. So here we go. All right, here's the question, James.
Yes.
So Skip Schumacher's already gone.
Yes.
Now, we're going to get into Mike Maddox and Jeff Albert being gone in just a minute. But who do you feel? Do you go internally within the organization and try to fill in the spot that Skip Schumacher left open? Or do you go out and find a candidate? And if so, who is your ideal candidate?
So let me ask you a question. I need you to clarify outside the organization for me. Are we talking about somebody who's never been associated with the Cardinals or somebody who had played there and now doesn't? I mean,
oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
See, this is where we're getting at, folks.
No, he's refereeing a Lions game.
Yeah, I'm
You're going to have to deal with this all show long.
I knew I should have brought my yellow flag up here. I'm going to give you so many unsportsmanlike conducts for bad jokes. So I was thinking.
Of the joke.
Yeah. Oh, no, hang on. Perfect. Right here.
Oof. We'll get into that later because I actually texted you when that happened.
Yes, I had to go to work early because otherwise I was going to punch a wall at home, and I didn't want to do that to my family.
You actually had a false start going to work. You left early.
Yes.
So
unlike the Browns player. Okay, off topic. This is ADHD kicking in. All right, right on the dot here about the bench coach and about what you were asking me. When it talks about outside the organization, I need somebody that was not a former player of the Cardinals, that didn't have prior experience as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. I get the Cardinals are a family. I respect the hell out of that. But at some point, maybe you should go out and look beyond that.
So the reason I asked that is because I've got your perfect candidate for a hitting / bench coach, and that's Matt Holliday. I feel that Matt Holliday, obviously every Friday he's on the fast lane, and this is obviously they're talking hitting with him every week. He was a fantastic hitter. He was a clutch hitter, even though depending on who you ask, they'll tell you he wasn't. Of course, he was in the shadow of Pujols once Pujols left, so that's why that's where the comparison is at. Matt Holliday would be great, either as a hitting coach or just a bench coach. I could also see if you wanted to, Stubby Clapp or, Pop Warner maybe makes the jump. Okay. Pitching coach wise, I think you have to go outside the organization. And I know that it's tough because you've got Dusty Blake there who was in the organization. Obviously, they've reassigned Brian Eversgerd, who was the bullpen coach. So, he's not going to be on the in dugout coaching staff. You have to go outside the organization for a pitching coach. Now you're going to ask me, well, who would I name? I have no clue because I don't know who's available. I would love, nostalgic wise, to bring back Chris Carpenter. I said as much via mic drop on the fast lane today. So I would love that, but he's working for the Angels. So, there's just a lot out there. I mean, there are a lot of former pitchers that you could look at, but I made the joke to you earlier about Mike Matheny and Cal Eldred. And I think we would both take bullets from a firing squad if they were to bring both of those two clowns back to St. Louis.
So this is the interesting thing about Chris Carpenter. Yes, I had put on the I-70 Sports Facebook page that I would, when it came to the pitching coach vacancy, he would have been the first guy that came to mind for me. No nonsense attitude, but a great team player, somebody who loves the organization. That said, obviously with the fact that he's working with the Angels, unless he decides to just pick it up and say, nah, I'm going back to the Gateway City, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But you look at the bench coach, and it's very much a thankless position. You made it, a big part of it. Oh, excuse me. First off, no Cal Eldred, no Mike Matheny. We're past that. Um, and but the bench coach is basically the right hand man to the team manager. So obviously, they assist the managers in the decision making, and there's a lot of information they will relay. So when you really look at it, you want to find somebody who knows the game well, and you want somebody that has a really good track record. And I guess when looking at the perspective, maybe the reason they don't go outside the organization much is because usually the ones that get along the best are the ones within the organization together.
Right.
I think that's a perfect example of Red Shandy's why he was part of the organization for the majority of his entire life. I mean, he was in baseball for 76 years, and 67 of those years were with the Cardinals in some capacity. And that was just because he had that experience, that spirit, and the camaraderie with everyone involved. So I don't see them really going outside the organization as far as non-Cardinal affiliated players or former coaches. This is my thing. You know who I would love to see at this point? Because I think he's absolutely overdue. I mean, I know he has a good spot within the front office. I would see Jose Oquendo.
I think, well, everybody loves the secret weapon. I was a big fan when he was coaching with the Cardinals. I think part of it was his health and the fact that he didn't want to travel, and that's why he kind of set up camp in Jupiter, home of the Cardinals spring training. It's not a bad idea either. I know some people have brought up Albert Pujols perhaps, and look, that would be great to keep him inside that dugout. Nolan Arenado had said earlier before we got to the postseason that, even if he didn't come back as a player, but just to have him in the dugout meant a whole lot. There it's tough because, Jose, yeah, he doesn't want to travel anymore. And I think that, I mean, obviously him in any capacity in the organization is awesome. You could even see somebody like Willie McGee be elevated to bench coach. I mean, let's not forget Willie will be back, and I get not wanting to go outside the organization because you have the quote unquote Cardinal way, but it's also maybe sometimes, Mike Schilt won't think so, but sometimes you need a philosophical shakeup. So, I just, they're going to have to do something soon because there are a lot of holes on this roster to fill. Free agency, the winter meetings will be here before you know it. So you got to do something quick to put your coaching staff together.
Which brings us to the next big move when it comes to the coaching staff shakeup, and that's that both Jeff Albert, the hitting coach, and Mike Maddox, I almost said Mike Matheny, Mike Maddox, who will not be returning in 2023. Maddox, now John Mozeliak, the Cardinal president of baseball operations, made it clear that he was going to offer them new contracts, but Maddox wanted to change of pace and declined. As for Jeff Albert, he thought he was getting too much of the blame. Okay,
that falls on people like you, Jeremy.
Yeah. So exactly. This is where it comes from. So this is where we're going to start with Jeff Albert. Okay. Do I think he got too much of the blame? Yes, and I'll tell you why.
He didn't.
Because everybody needs to be held accountable. Yes, he's the one that instructs players on better how to improve their contact on the ball, better strategies, how to really help when it comes to certain situations at the plate. But at the end of the day, you can teach a guy all he wants, but he's still got to be the one to execute it.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Jeff Albert is he completely exonerated? Not at all. No. Jeff Albert has plenty of blame that should fall on his shoulders for the struggles of the Cardinals bats, but it is not all on him. It is on the batters in the lineups that have been slumping. And this dates back to when guys like Dexter Fowler and Matt Carpenter, before he left, were really struggling. I mean, they were hitting around 150, 160. This is not a first time issue. So Jeff Albert not coming back can lead to many open opportunities for the Cardinals. And once again, that's where people think Pujols would fit in, or Molina even. Um, so what do you think, James, as far as the whole the whole hitting coach situation is? Not just with Jeff Albert leaving, but with who could come and fill in the spot.
Well, with Albert leaving, I mean, it's kind of this simple. I mean, you kind of made mention of it. You know, you can instruct somebody how to hit, or, you know, what they need to put in place to help improve contact with the ball. Son of a gun. I'm watching the Blues game, as you know. Edmonton just scored to make it 1-0, 13:53 to go in the first period. So when it comes down to it, I don't want Yachty in that position. And I know Yachty or Molina is beloved in St. Louis, but let's face it, hitting wasn't his strong suit as a player. And that's not taking anything away from him. He is without a doubt one, if not the best defensive catchers to ever play the game. But, you know, I think you need somebody in there that can kind of continue to innovate and teach and be the instructor that this team needs to help the younger players. I mean, we've talked about this over and over and over. Guys like Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, you know, your veteran players, they may take hints or tips rather, and, you know, maybe subtle hints on what they need to do to get better, but they are set in their ways, because obviously there's a reason why they're at the top of their game. But it's more so really the players like a Tommy Edman or Brendan Donovan, or certainly a Dylan Carlson or a Nolan Gorman, that need that kind of instruction to help them really, you know, turn into the hitters that the organization thinks they can. So, I mean, like I said, you know, obviously Matt Holliday comes to mind because his son Jackson just got drafted #1 overall by the Baltimore Orioles. He's got another son that has been playing in a lot of Team USA showcases. I mean, the guy knows baseball. He's helped teach his kids the game enough to get where his oldest son gets drafted #1 overall in Major League Baseball, something Matt Holliday didn't do. So, you know, I like him there. But again, you can go. I know that Turner Ward, who was the assistant hitting coach, who was also a player, he worked a lot with Paul Goldschmidt in Arizona. He's going to be in the running for that job. So, I mean, this is where it goes back. We talked about this when they let Buddha go, when they let, you know, Budaska walk out, or actually fired him and let him, you know, go as the hitting coach. It seemed like everything changed. And I understand that we're going the way of sabermetrics now, but there's still a place in this game for an eye test. And, well, your swing looks bad, I can fix this. It's no different than Adam Wainwright figuring out that, you know, his stride and his landing spot was different because he got hit with a line drive on a Sunday night at home against Atlanta. And he sees that and goes, well, that's what the problem was, and now I can fix it. Unfortunately, it wasn't before the season ended, but, you know, they're still watching tape, and being that good goes a lot farther than just constantly relying on sabermetrics.
You know, there's always that old school tradition that lies within baseball. I think as time goes on, it starts to fade away, but the remnants are still there. And I think the Cardinals are one of the few organizations that do still hold on to some of that old school tradition. Of course, they, like every team, have analytics involved somehow. But the hitting coach, I think Matt Holliday is like top candidate #1 for this. This position screams for Matt Holliday to come back to the Cardinals. And, you know, because, and if there was anybody that people didn't think would become a legend in St. Louis, Matt Holliday is definitely one of those guys. You know, he had a very successful career in Colorado as far as as a hitter and everything, and in a fielder, but the Rockies never went anywhere.
Right.
And so he goes to the Cardinals. Now, here's something interesting, is that Matt Holliday, I believe, had said something in the past about in regards to
Well, there was interest from the organization before they hired Skip last season. The organization was actually interested in bringing Matt Holliday in.
right, and sources in the organization did report that he was expected to be considered a replacement for Jeff Albert. Here it is. It said months ago that he felt he would consider a potential job offer of coaching at the major league level if the right opportunity. Because right now he's currently the outfield and hitting coach for Oklahoma State
Oklahoma State.
University.
Yep.
And I think in a lot of things, he's actually credited by a lot of people for helping Matt Carpenter with his resurgence.
Right.
And so that's a big thing right there. So, I mean, and everybody, please tell us in the comments below who you think would be the best candidate for the bench coach and the hitting coach as we continue on with this coverage here. It's hard for me because you could always put so many other players in, but to me, if you can get Matt Holliday, there's nobody else in question.
Right.
Like, it would be on so many levels, both from a PR standpoint, from a quality standpoint, and just overall right business standpoint. Get Matt Holliday there. You get the leadership. You get a guy with a friendly attitude. It just works. It makes sense. And for Matt Holliday, the game hasn't passed him by.
Right.
That's the thing. He's still a fresh face in the game. We're not going to act like he's some 70-year-old guy that is way past the days of baseball. I mean, he's in his late 30s, early 40s, and Holliday loves the game so much. I mean, he's provided so many emotional moments in St. Louis wearing the birds on the bat. And when you look at some of the young guys that we have on the team, such as Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman, Dylan Carlson, even Tyler O'Neill, this is a great chance for Matt Holliday for them what he did with Carpenter. Somebody who's obviously much older than the guys I mentioned before, but was still able to have potential. If it wasn't for his fracture, he would have had a comeback player of the year coming for him in New York this season. So
yeah, I believe that's the case too, and I'm with you. And like, again, he takes the job with Oklahoma State, as their hitting and outfield coach, and I think that he would fully embrace, coming back to St. Louis, and he has another son, and he's got a young son and a daughter, so it may be where he's at with his family right now, and whether or not he would accept the position. But this is one of those times where, how many times in your life does a position like this come around? So we'll see what happens. I think it'll be interesting. But again, we both talked about it. The organization was interested in bringing him back last year, and I'm sure that interest is still there.
With that, we go to the pitching coach. And I said this to you before the show, but in my personal opinion, we have not had a solid, consistent pitching coach since Dave Duncan. And I think it's really starting to show. Not saying anybody we've had was really bad, but the consistency the Cardinals had. I hate to use this analogy because I can't stand the team I'm about to compare them to. But in a way, for the longest time, the Cardinals coaching was like being a coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've only had 3 since 1969.
Right.
When you look at the Cardinals, aside from a couple small stints here and there, majority it's been Red Shandies, Whitey Herzog, and Tony La Russa. We had quite a few years of Mike Matheny. But then, you've had Mike Schilt, you've had, and then you get to Ali Marmol, you get coaching staff rearrangements, and now you're starting to wonder what exactly is going on. And the pitching coach has been at the center of all these overhauls within the organization. And, we're at a point right now, and we're going to transition with this as well. Adam Wainwright's coming back for presumably his last season, his 18th and presumably last season in the majors. You got a lot of young guns in this rotation. You got a very solid bullpen, but just got brutalized in the postseason. At some point, they need to be pointed in the right direction with the right coach. And I don't think Mike Maddox was that guy.
Well, I mean, and Adam Wainwright said so as much in his press conference earlier today, that this would be his last year. You just did not want the hoopla. You didn't want the attention that Yachty and Albert got. He said, just let me pitch. Just let me go out and execute. And they had actually one of the questions, and I'm trying to think if it may have come from Derek Gould, was about the pitching coaches. And oh hell, what's his name? John Denton with MLB.com. Asked him, he goes, hey, you're going to have a new pitching coach next year. What are your thoughts? And of course, Adam being as diplomatic as ever, he's like, look, he goes, Mad Dog was a great coach for me. He did a lot for my career. He was a great golfing partner, et cetera, et cetera. And, that Wainwright followed up. He goes, look, I've only had 3 pitching coaches in my entire career. He had Dave Duncan, he had Derek Lilliquist, and then, Mike Maddox. And I liked Mike Maddox. I think that there were times where, and really, this isn't the pitching coaches blame that, a lot of the bullpen pitchers were overused. We saw that this year where times with Gallegos, Cabrera, who once got sent down, he never made his trip back to St. Louis. We've seen it in the past with Seth Maness and Kevin Segrist. Yeah, I mean, those guys. So, I think Mike Maddox was great. And obviously we'll all miss the claw when he went out to the mound to, visit his pitchers. But I think that, Maddox was, he had a 18-year major league pitching career before he became a coach. So, he's probably at the point now where he is probably ready to retire and just, still love the game, but watch it from afar. I don't know of any replacement. I would have to actually sit down and look at a list and see if guys that are available or that are worth their weight in gold, because, we mentioned Cal Eldred earlier. I don't want him anywhere near this pitching staff. And, if you look at it, yeah, maybe you go with Dusty Blake, who was already in the organization. But again, maybe a lot of these pitchers need a different ear too.
And that's another thing, pitching coaches, you mentioned about pitchers like Seth Maness, Kevin Segrist, Matt Bowman, guys, very good relief pitchers. I mean, these guys, all-star caliber. But Kevin Segrist was used in over half the games one season. I forget which year it was, but there was one season he was used in over 80 games.
He had 88 appearances that year.
Right.
And it was 2015.
It was 2015. That's what I was figuring as such. In 2015, he had 88 appearances. No reliever should be in 88 games. And he pitched great. It was just the overuse. And Lilliquist came under a lot of scrutiny for that, as well as Mike Matheny did. But the way I look at it is, like I said, everybody is accountable. So for the good times and the bad times, the players and the coaches had to be held accountable for performances. Now, as far as usage goes, that just comes down on coaching. I think it's a mixture of Maddox and Ollie, because you have to work together. Ollie was a first-time manager. Maddox, like you said, not only did he have all this experience in coaching, but he had an 18-year playing career. That's a lot of experience you can learn from. At some point, we don't know what happened. We weren't in the dugout during these games. Maybe they said here, maybe Maddox said, take him, this such and such guy out. Gallegos, just for example. I think the biggest sign that was shown was when Helsley was in longer than he should have been.
Right.
During game 1 in the wild card series. I think that entire situation was botched. And I don't know who truly is behind all that. And we're not trying to make it into this big scandal, but what we're trying to say is, for a team to truly succeed, they need to have the staff with the right chemistry.
Well, and apparently they all had very good relationships with each other, but if it was any organization, any business other than the St. Louis Cardinals, and you saw a mass exodus of this many people, it makes you think, what is the underlying issue or what's going on inside the organization that's causing everybody to want to leave? Skip, he ends up with one of the 32 pieces of gold that are very rare, and you're not going to turn down a managerial job, and certainly a big-time raise, I'm guessing, from what he was making here. Maddox is probably at the point where he's ready to just settle down, and then you've got Jeff Albert, who he said that he's ready to go try different endeavors. So whatever that means, it wouldn't surprise me if Jeff Albert ended up in Miami with Skip Schumacher.
And that's a very good possibility. I mean, like I said, Mike Maddox is very, I don't even want to say likely. I just want to say that the chances of Jeff Albert getting another job are more so than Mike Maddox, strictly because Mike Maddox seems to want to take a step back from baseball.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the qualifications, because if that was the case, then I think Mike Maddox gets the job right off the bat.
Well,
but it's just because
right.
Mike Maddox wants to step back, like you said, relax, watch baseball from afar, be one of the fans.
Well, and we know that obviously the Cardinals organization still thought highly enough of both of them, because Mo had said in his presser earlier that he had planned on offering both of them contracts, and they both declined. So, I know that a lot of Cardinal fans would like to think that the Cardinals fired Jeff Albert. It was really just, it was the other way. Albert and both he and Maddox were just like, look, we want to take a different direction with our careers. And hey, you got to respect that. I mean, look, I know everybody in St. Louis hates Jeff Albert. I get that. I completely understand that you got to put the blame somewhere. But obviously, he was good enough to get the job in the first place, which means he probably knows more about hitting than, a lot of people will either never know or will forget. So, it is what it is. It'll be interesting, like I said, going either direction. You've got the 4 positions coaching wise you need to fill. Obviously, the bullpen coach is that's probably the most fun, that gets the least amount of press. But obviously, there's 3 big spots that the Cardinals have to fill going forward.
And I think it's especially important because, Mike Matheny, when you had to fill in spots around Matheny, I mean, you had guys like McGuire, you had John Mabry, you had Derek Lilliquist. You had these guys who either played alongside him or at least grew up in the era with him of baseball. Now you got Ali Marmol, who is only, I believe, 36 years old. Yeah, he's only 36. So, and Mike Maddox was definitely not anywhere near 36. Obviously, Mike Maddox was 61. Jeff Albert, not 36. You want guys that can grow together.
I just had a name pop into my head for bench coach or hitting coach that would work perfectly in St. Louis. Shelby Duncan.
Yeah, Shelby Duncan would be a great one.
And right now he is the saber. Hang on, let me try this again. He is the, Lions aren't supposed to talk this much. He is the sabermetric magician, is what they call him, for the Chicago White Sox.
Well,
he can bring Can he bring Michael Kopech and some of those pitchers with him if he comes down south?
I was gonna say, look, we'll take the best staff in baseball right now. Come on, let's do this.
I'll take their catcher too. You give me Yasmani Grandal.
Well, you don't want Contreras? No.
Actually, speaking of him, real quick, did you hear the interview where Wilson Contreras said he had interest in playing in St. Louis as well?
Yes, he has brought that up before, that he is interested.
Boy.
And that's something to keep your eyes on, folks, because remember, technically right now, Andrew Kisner is the starter.
And John Mozeliak did say again in his presser today, and I know a lot of people laughed at it when you posted it on our page, he did say that they are expecting the payroll to go up. So he actually cited Albert Pujols' success, driving more fans to the ballpark. So the payroll is going up because of us.
Best fans in baseball.
There you go. There's a reason why we're the BFIB.
Yeah, because we got to hold on to something. Okay, now then.
Only if you're a Browns fan.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's going back 50 years. Anyway, okay. So now we come to the final part of our Cardinals discussion, and that is with Adam Wainwright. So like I said, Wayno, good old Uncle Charlie's coming back for 2023 for his final season.
Yep.
And I remember when I watched at the home finale, you watched Pujols, Molina, and Wainwright walk off into the dugout. That right there could have said, hey, we're all done. But then you realize all season, Wainwright definitely was the one that was just trying to play. Not saying Pujols and Molina weren't, but I mean, first off, I'm just going to tell you right now, there was no way Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina were going to retire without a farewell tour.
Right.
There was no way anybody would have ever let that happen. And you already know that next season, Adam Wainwright is going to get a lot of appreciation his way.
He doesn't want it.
But he doesn't want it, and that's the interesting thing.
Matter of fact, it's funny because he had a moment during his press conference where he kind of reminded me of Aaron Rodgers, and I should never, ever put Adam Wainwright and Aaron Rodgers in the same sentence. However, he goes, just let me pitch, just let me execute, and relax.
Oh, boy.
Just relax. But,
yeah, but I think
you know what? So I got to say, and I'm listening to the presser, and I just wanted to reach through it and go, but Adam, you deserve every bit of the accolades and the pomp and circumstance and just all of it. So no, I don't want to relax. And no, I don't, no. The only good thing is I'm glad he's coming back because it means I didn't get up there in person this year to see him pitch. By God, I will next year.
I think the reason I'm also most excited.
What a save by Bennington. Sorry.
I think the reason I'm especially excited to see him come back for one more year, there's a lot of youth on this team that, much like Pujols taught guys such as Juan Yepes, there's a lot of youth in that bullpen that Wainwright can pass down so much knowledge and leadership to that he's already done, but I feel like he can continue to do so. And on top of that, look, if the Cardinals make the playoffs next year, your ass is pitching in it. I'm sorry. There's no way Adam Wainwright's not pitching in the playoffs next year. If the Cardinals make it, which I hope they do. Here's
the other thing, and I get off my goaltender for the love of God, would you? Sorry, I almost said a really bad word. Okay, sorry, Jane, the train jumped the track there for a second. It's not just helping out the bullpen. If you don't go out and get, if you're not able to outbid somebody to get a catcher, there are so many things that Wainwright can teach Kisner and Herrera and those guys too. I mean, remember Dave Duncan was one of the best catchers in the league, and he became a pitching coach.
Yep.
So it works vice versa. Hell, maybe they should hire me as the hitting coach. I gave up so many damn home runs in college, dude. Like, I can tell you what to look for.
Tell you what not to do.
Well, right. No, there are balls that are still orbiting this earth that have not landed yet, especially one from the big first baseman from Creighton. So anyhow, but I digress again. Sorry. There's a lot of squirrels running in front of me tonight. So, but it was weird. So I want to kind of talk about the Mo presser altogether. So he comes on. You think the headline should be Adam Wainwright's coming back for his 18th year, yada, yada, yada. We're doing this. There were no terms, by the way, available for his contract. I'm sure we'll hear about that in the coming weeks. So we hear about this, and then all of a sudden, it was like an avalanche of, by the way, Skip Schumacher's in Miami. By the way, Jeff Albert and Mike Maddox aren't coming back. By the way, we're reassigning Brian Eversgerd. By the way, I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, literally, and what was the first thing I was like, dude, all the changes today, and it's the day of our show. Oh my God. I'm like, this is great. Working in radio for as long as I did, the one thing is you always wanted breaking news on the day that, you were going to be on the air or prior to the weekend. That's why the NFL is so good at dropping bombs at Friday at 4:00 because they know they're getting the weekend and everybody's going to forget about it. So, but I mean, it just seemed like it was one thing after another today. We talked that there was going to be churn. I didn't expect churn from this point. And now I'm going to say something that's going to cause the Chicken Littles to freak out. By the way, John Mozeliak also mentioned in his press conference that Nolan Arenado has not opted in, but he's not opted out either. So, and he made a comment about the payroll going up. I firmly believe that that pointed comment was strictly directed at Nolan Arenado.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now. No more squirrels, or at least not for now.
No more squirrels, you promise?
We haven't gotten to the logos yet, and I've got a couple that I want to bring up.
Yeah, there's plenty of logos for that, but I'm going to tell you something. Like I said, I am glad that Adam Wainwright is back. I'm excited for so many reasons. Now, you know what's interesting? Okay, so we talked about this all year as they were going down on this record chase of the most starts by a battery in baseball.
Yeah.
And at some point we had mentioned about how their record's probably never going to be broken because just look at who's the second longest active streaks, and it was between Kyle Hendricks and Wilson Contreras of the Cubs.
Oddly enough.
Well, now just imagine that Wainwright and Contreras team up. The amount of experience that brings to and star power right there in that battery. And yeah, it'll be Wainwright's last year, but it wouldn't be Contreras' last year. And then not only would a lot of pitchers learn from Contreras, but they would also, the catchers like Kisner and Herrera would also be learning. Because I'm sorry, Kisner has not proven himself to be the full-time go-to man for the Cardinals. And that's not saying he never will. It's just when you're, I don't want to say stuck because that's not true, but when you've had the same catcher for 19 seasons, and he's been playing at the level that Yadier Molina's played, you know, you're going to be extra careful to pick who's going to be the full-time guy going into next season.
Right.
And Kisner's just not ready. I think bringing in a guy like Contreras will help immensely. He'll help the young guns in the bullpen and the guys in the starting rotation. You know, and let's not act like Wilson Contreras is just some, you know, second-rate catcher. I mean, he is a former World Series champion as well. He is a 3-time All-Star. He's got 117 home runs. He's only 30 years old. He's got a .256 batting average in his career. This guy has his accolades. And on top of that, I mean, also runs, you know what? Much like Molina, catching runs in the family. Look at Wilson Contreras of Braves, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I was like, oh, damn it. I forgot what team, but yeah, it was the Braves. So
I was going to say, and here's the thing, like last year, so Wilson Contreras last year only caught 70 games, but he also DH'd in 47. So if like with Michaelis and Kisner, there was chemistry, right? If Kisner wants to become Michaelis's personal catcher, that's great. But then you can have Contreras into DH, and you know, or vice versa. If Contreras and Jack Flaherty or Jordan Montgomery or those guys have really good chemistry, then you know you vice versa. That's the one thing Kisner, he's become a really good catcher defensively. He can't hit. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a damn boat. I mean, there were streaks near the end of the season where he got hot, but I don't need a catcher hitting 206. With all due respect to Yadier Molina, we already had that. So you know, you need to get some kind of offense and some kind of production from that position as well. So I'm all for Wilson Contreras and keeping him in the division. Obviously, he knows the hitters and he knows the ballparks.
Yeah,
and it would piss off Cubs fans too.
Well, yeah, I think, and I feel like there's almost becoming a Cardinal Cub thing where we're just going to swap all these players because
give them Paul DeYoung.
Right. Jeez. Yeah.
Hey, sure. Why not? We're going to go out and sign Trey Turner too.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
And Aaron Judge. And I want
Okay,
Aaron Judge.
well, that can happen, and meanwhile, the Dodgers can go sign Aaron Judge.
No. We get Aaron Judge too. I'm signing Wilson Contreras, Trey Turner, and Aaron Judge. I'm making that payroll go way up.
Oh gosh.
Look, I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, Jeremy. I do this half-assed bullshit. Come on, man. Come on.
I feel you. Okay. Well, folks,
You want
first
to?
off,
I'm soft.
I need you to put the hair back on for a second. So as we're getting closer to the first hour, go on, put your hair on.
Hang on. Look, you think this is easy? I feel bad for any woman who has curls. This is some bullshit. I feel really bad for any woman who has curly haire.
Look.
Besides, I'm trying to get my bow and my ears and all. Hang on, let me take these headphones off.
Yeah, I'm gonna just while James gets that figured out, it's a surprise, but I'm gonna be here for a second, folks. I'm telling you right now, because this is where we get to the really fun part of the show. Okay, here he is.
There we go.
That lovely guy. All right, folks. So welcome to Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. I'm the maestro Jeremy Karp, and alongside me is the
I had to get my ears out.
Yep, is the Cowardly Lion himself, the most underpaid umpire in America, Hollywood James Knox.
I don't have my paws on. Hang on.
Oh gosh. So you may be wondering why James and I are dressed the way we are. Well, I'm dressed the way I am because I've seen enough Cleveland Browns games to where I feel like I've earned this right. And James has seen The Wizard of Oz enough to feel like he's earned this right.
See, I've got my badge of courage too.
Oh my gosh, he actually has. That is cool. Okay, I'm giving you an A just because you have the badge of courage. That is.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Put them up. Put them up.
I can't see where. I'm a blind ref. Well, it's funny. The walking stick's back there.
I'm gonna start calling you Jerome.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, Jerome Boger. And yes, in no way are we trying to make fun of animals or people that are blind. We're just trying to make fun of NFL referees and the Cowardly Lion because, you know, there's our reasons to.
Do not call PETA and do not call like Stevie Wonder's agent.
Yes, please don't.
Actually, that may get you a nice payday.
No, it'll get me a nice lawsuit and then the show. And we can't afford that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, and I know there were some technical issues at the top of the show, but James and I were talking about the St. Louis Cardinals and all the moves they've made where Skip Schumacher's become the manager of the Miami Marlins, hitting coach Jeff Albert and pitching coach Mike Maddox have stepped down. The bullpen coach, and James, you're going to have to help me remember the name.
Brian Eversgard.
It's always the last name that gets me, has been reassigned within the organization. So Cardinals got some positions to fill. Meanwhile, Adam Wainwright is returning for his 18th season because when you miss the playoffs because they don't put you in the game, you ain't ending it like that. You want to run it back. You got some work to do. You got some unfinished business. And I got to see what Jags history just said. Stevie Wonder will be a lot better NFL rep than the ones they have now. Absolutely. The Stevie Wonder will let them play. Nevertheless, I'll tell you this right now. Folks, we have been hyping up this Halloween episode like crazy. Main reason, at the end of last week's show, James and I put on a bunch of sports ranging from the Quebec Nordiques to the Hartford Whalers. And James, what was a couple other ones?
The Detroit Tigers one. That's the one I was laughing about because the
Detroit Tigers one.
The crazy one was scary.
Yeah, in fact.
Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my.
Yeah, exactly. Folks, you folks may be wondering at home what exactly I'm talking about. And I'm talking about the 1928 Detroit Tigers.
Oh my God, this thing is scary.
Well, yeah, let me tell you something. It's a good thing it's Halloween because this is about to be one of the scariest logos you're going to see.
Are you gonna show the scary one or the one drawn by the third grader first?
I'm going to show the. Ooh, that's a good question. Which one do I want to show? I will show the scary one first if it'll let me show the scary one first.
Okay.
Okay. To do that, I do need to take the glasses off because I legitimately have a hard time seeing with those. So this is the one that it looks like the third grader made. Now, keep in mind, this is an actual logo. It's just a different rendition of it. This is the 1928-1927 Detroit Tigers. Yes. It's every bit as creepy as it looks. So then we get to the actual logo. And actually, if anything, believe it or not, I think that might have been the actual logo. But here's another
Psycho Cat.
Right. Here's another rendition of that logo. Let's see. There we go.
Cat is possessed.
There it is. There's that cuddly little shit.
He looks pathetic. Like I feel bad. Like I want to give him a hug, but he's got fangs and stuff.
Now here's something that's interesting. By Jags history, the New York Giants logo is one of the worst in the NFL. If you didn't watch the NFL, you would not know they were the Giants.
It's not necessarily true.
Yeah, I mean,
because one of their logos is the word Giants in white block letters with a white line underneath it.
Exactly. You that one I will have to disagree with because you do know that they are the Giants. That said,
the worst one in the NFL is the Commanders.
Well, there's a reason why they not going on that one. One of my best friends from Colorado sent me a text message earlier, and I told him I would go off on a rant here about this. So I just real quick, he's like, the Colorado Avalanche logo is the dumbest logo in all of sports. And I said, why? He goes, because it's dumb and they suck. So I couldn't disagree with him because we hate the Colorado Avalanche. And then I started thinking about it. It's an A wrapped in snow because, the A is kind of in the shape of the mountain. And I said, here it is. The A is for two things. First, they're arrogant assholes owned by Stan Kroenke. Or two, the people in Colorado needed help learning how to spell. Oh, jeez. Well.
And we hate, by the way, if you're a Blues fan, you hate the Colorado Avalanche. It's just, especially after that dumb son of, after he ran over my dude Bennington last year. You don't want a lion coming after you. I will find you, Nazem Kadri.
Exactly. Oh, God, get Kadri out of this. I'm telling you right now, folks. So, okay, anyway, so we got a lot of logos we got to go through. But first off, I'm going to start with probably one of the most iconic logos in sports that do not exist anymore. and it hurts my soul that this team does not exist anymore.
The Montreal Expos.
We are going with the Montreal Expos. Yes. Probably one of the most popular what could have been stories.
God, they were so good.
Because at some point,
Pedro Martinez, Larry Walker,
Dennis Martinez, Brad Guerrero,
Tim Wallach,
Johnson,
Tim Raines.
So you look at this logo, and there is such a rich history, but there's also such depression involved with it. Because they grew up because this team this was also during the era where if you did not, the playoff field was not where half the league can make it.
Nope. 2 teams from each league.
2 teams from each league. That was it. And you faced off, and whoever won, go to the World Series. Have fun. And the Expos were not definitely a successful franchise.
No, they were not.
A lot of memorable moments, but just not a successful franchise.
I'm curious. Hang on. Let me hit the pause button before we give it away. So I know Jags history is kind of a young buck. So Jags history, I know you're watching. Do you know who the Montreal Expos are now? Without looking. I'm going to call them out.
This ought to be good.
You know what, though?
We'll continue while Jack's history tries to look that up.
So to think, I don't want him to look it up. So to think if the team that they are now had the talent that they've given away in the last 3 or 4 years and had them in Montreal, the Expos would be a World Series champion.
The Expos had the talent that the team they became.
Hang on. He just sent me a message saying, I don't watch hockey. The Montreal Expos were a baseball team.
You are kidding me.
No. He just said, and I quote, I do not watch hockey.
I might actually cry. I might retire from journalism after hearing that.
The Montreal Expos became when did they move?
Hang on. 2005, but do
Thank
not.
You. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of drag it out while I pull up the logo.
Okay.
I
will drag it up.
Because
they're not a hockey team.
Yeah, they're definitely not a hockey team. And I can't believe that anybody would ever think that. Because that actually is really hurtful.
I'm sorry.
All right, here we go. This is who in 2005 this team moved because the Major League Baseball bought the Twins and the Expos. But while Minnesota was able to hang on to the Twins, they were able to get a new stadium and hang on to everything.
Yep.
It just wasn't going as well in Montreal. I'm sorry, Olympic Stadium was nice, but nobody was going to those.
So let's move them to another city and let them play in a football stadium for the first 2 or 3 years because they played in RFK Stadium.
They did. They played in RFK Stadium for the first couple of years, and that team is the Washington Nationals.
Yep.
And I tell you, the Nationals now play a lot like what the Expos did most of their history.
Juan Soto got out of Washington quicker than the Nationals got out of Montreal.
Jesus. Oh, that's cold.
Well, you know.
Cold-hearted.
Well, it's cold in Montreal this time of year.
Well, Jags history may not know hockey, but here, once I said, last week we had a couple great hockey logos on. Here's the Quebec Nordiques, which we now sadly know as the Colorado Avalanche.
But I'm cheering. Well done. Good job.
So, thank you.
They went from one of the best logos to one of the worst.
Exactly. And the reason, and we've talked about this, we talked about it last week, the reason the Quebec Nordiques left Quebec is simple. Excuse me. It's because while the Montreal Canadiens dominated the market, they were also a French-English area. In Quebec City, Quebec, it was basically strict French.
Yep. Oui.
They only had one English form of media, so it was hard for them to maintain a strong past the city audience. So while there was still a loyal market there, it was expanding upon it that was the problem. And obviously in the NHL, like any sport league, expansion's the big thing.
Yep.
And if they're speaking of small markets, because Quebec City was the second smallest market in sports behind Green Bay, Wisconsin, before the Packers, which is amazing to think that Quebec City is bigger than Green Bay, but I love it. There was another city, and if I'm correct, I'm trying to remember their population, but you know what? I think it's also bigger than Green Bay, and if not, it's close.
Who'd that be?
The Hartford Whalers. Hartford
yeah.
Whalers played from about 1978 to 1997, and I'm telling you, they were in the AHL, and they obviously were in the NHL. Once again, success was not something that came by often.
They were also in the World Hockey League.
And they were also in the World Hockey League.
Yeah. So, you know what's funny? And one of the biggest trades that the Hartford Whalers made in their history actually had to do with the Blues. It's who the Blues acquired Chris Pronger from.
Mm-hmm. And
God, I love that logo. I'm so glad Carolina still honors that.
And that's the thing. They moved to Carolina to become the Hurricanes. And you look at teams, and that's one thing we're also going to get into in this, because this is gonna take up a while, folks. But we're going to enjoy it because A, it's Halloween, and B, that's what we do. We love this. So when the Hartford Whalers moved to Carolina, you know, the Hurricanes have done a lot of honoring. They've kept the Hartford Whalers tradition alive. They've honored the alumni. They've honored, they've worn the retro jerseys, which I'm not going to lie, I dig so much. Oh my gosh. So But yes, dwindling attendance and just lack of proper financing and success led to the team moving in 1997. They won their last game in Hartford, which is always a nice story. Unlike the Expos, who got their ass kicked in their last game at Montreal. In fact, in 2004, it got so bad they were playing games in other stadiums because they just didn't draw fans.
Right.
So here's another logo. We're going to go old school. We're going to just, speaking of the Minnesota Twins. So
Is
I
this-
had.
Go ahead. I think I know which one this one is. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So this one, we're going to flash back to the 1970s. This is one not many people see. And I don't know how many people are going to remember this one, but it's interesting because, once again, there was a chance the Twins weren't going to stay in Minnesota multiple times, and then they were struggling in the 70s and in the 2000s for a while. Now, folks may be wondering, who were the Twins before they were the Twins?
I know. Pick me.
Well, let's see if I can only find their logo. Well, this is what's interesting.
It's funny because it kind of ties in with the last team. Yeah.
The last team. Well, the thing of it is, I'm not going to lie, their logo's kind of boring. And there's their logo. Now, you may be asking yourself, huh?
We're not flying the W on this show.
No, we're not, especially in So, let me tell you something right now. This team is none other than the Washington Senators. And they were the definition. If there's one thing in common that all these teams we've been mentioning so far to start this off, they've all kind of sucked ass.
They were bad. Yes.
Like, Senators were the worst team in the league for decades.
Yeah,
They
much has
were
changed in Washington.
Yeah. Talk about a one-hit wonder, must be the Nationals. Because other than that, they haven't really done anything in their history.
Nope.
The Senators, one of the oldest and historic franchises, some of the greatest of all time, played in Washington with the Senators. And it just amazes me because, excuse me, Bucky Harris, Goose Ghostland, Sam Rice, Roy Sievers, Eddie Yost. And a lot of these guys were just spent in obscurity because, they were. And I think, and this is what's interesting, I think perhaps one of the greatest pitchers of all time, Walter Johnson, played for the Senators.
Yep.
He played from 1907 to 1927. So he spent 21 years sucking on this team as far as overall team goes, because he was phenomenal. One of the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time. I'm sorry, one of the greatest right-handed pitcher of all time. I forgot. I'm thinking of Warren Spahn, who's the greatest left-handed pitchers. But nevertheless, yes, Walter Johnson, 417 wins, which is second all-time in baseball history, which we talk about how Cy Young's record's not going to get broken. There ain't no chance in hell that Walter Johnson's number's going to get broken. Think a pitcher's going to get 400 wins? You're kidding me. All right. So, we talk about them moving. Well, here's another team that I never. All right, we're gonna do this just for Jags history.
Oh God!
Jags history brought this up. Jags history said that logo, or the Giants logo, is one of the worst because you can't even tell they are. It says you can't even tell they're a football team or from New York. How about that one? From 1950.
That's why so many people still refer to them as the New York Football Giants.
Exactly.
Because you had the New York Giants baseball team that was there as well.
So you had, kind of like when you had the St. Louis Football Cardinals and the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals. You had they would call the baseball team, the Cardinals, and then you'd have the football team, the Big Red.
Yep.
But this is another one. And back then, the Giants, once again, another successful team. Y.A. Tittle was at the helm, and one of the oldest and most storied franchises in the NFL, who I'm gonna just say it, have continued to amaze me this season. I will die on the hill saying I predicted they were gonna win 3 games. Technically, I was right.
They've won at least, right?
Because they've won at least 3. They've won 6. They are 6-1, which I don't get how. I really don't.
1 yard.
1 yard. Oh my god.
Yeah, the Jaguars would have beat them. 1 yard.
Yeah. Now, when we look at this, we also have to look at some of the worst sports logos. And I'm just going to say it right now. This might be one of the absolute worst logos.
While you're looking for that, Jags History comments and says the Giants are for real. Yeah, we're going to have to go back at some point in time and look at our predictions and record-wise for, oh my God. I think we struck out on every, well, I mean, maybe Jeff Albert was picking our games. We struck out, I think, on every division winner. I mean, it's been a crazy year. I mean, it's far from over, but.
So this one, I can't believe I'm going to show this. This is retro. This is from the 50s.
What in the hell is that?
Do you have any idea what team that is?
The Cincinnati Reds? I don't know.
No. This, James,
what is
the
that?
Boston Red Sox.
Looks like Jay Leno.
This is the Boston Red Sox, and it's weird when I have some baseball cards from this era that have this logo on it. Although I think this is a redesign of the original. Yeah, weird. Very weird. Why? I don't know. Well, I don't know why this logo existed. That's what I should say.
Yeah.
Let's find another weird one, and probably one of the worst. Okay. Oh my gosh.
In Jack's history, to answer your question, we both had the Colts winning the AFC South.
Yes. So I'm going to just say it right now. There's so many interesting logos in baseball. This one is interesting in the why. Now this one is not it's kind of, once again, an artist rendering of the actual logo.
Is that the St. Louis Browns?
It is. This is what the final logos of the St. Louis Browns looked like.
Is that Eddie Goodell?
I mean, no, that's taller than Eddie Goodell.
I'm just saying, though. I mean, the way he's got his leg up and swinging and stuff like that. I mean, that was kind of the picture that is.
Goodell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people wonder what and the thing of it is, the St. Louis Browns had so many logos, and
now the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, now they're the Baltimore Orioles. But this was another logo that the St. Louis Browns had.
I like that one.
Now, see, that I consider historic. Now, we're going to take a little history lesson for when they made the World Series in 1944 and faced off against the Cardinals. Okay, it was the only true successful season the St. Louis Browns ever had. And it's the only pennant they had ever won as the St. Louis Browns. A lot of it was because while some of the best players on the other teams were in the war, St. Louis Browns had a bunch of players that were actually declared unfit for service. So
that's why their teams were so bad for so long.
Exactly. Yeah, once you get the good players back from the war,
got that ass whooped.
Now, we had mentioned earlier in the segment about how the Carolina Hurricanes honor the Hartford Whalers a lot. Let me tell you something. Hardly ever do the St. Louis Browns get honored by the Baltimore Orioles. In fact, when the Orioles got moved when the Browns got moved to Baltimore to become the Orioles, they initiated the largest trade in Major League history, which I believe was over 12 to 15 players traded away from the Browns to try to get as far away from that team as possible. As of now, there are only 3 living former St. Louis Browns players, but I do commend Mr. Ed Wheatley, who is president of the St. Louis Browns Historical Society and one of the most knowledgeable men I know, I'll tell you that much. And he's done so much, excuse me, to preserve the legacy of the St. Louis Browns. They actually, just a few days ago, had their annual St. Louis Browns reunion luncheon. And they had a lot of figures there. And it was a great, I wish I could have attended, but I talked to Ed a little bit and it was a great event. So I was happy. I'm happy that somebody and some people are keeping this legacy strong, even if the team themselves wasn't really that strong. So, James, do you have a logo in particular that's always caught your eye, whether it because they are really good, really bad?
I mean, I made the comment last week. I look, I get it. I am not the most politically correct person in the world.
Oh boy.
Listen to my podcast. Listen to this podcast. You'll figure that one out pretty quick. I miss Chief Wahoo, but only because the movie Major League. Obviously, that was that, okay, so we all know I'm a Rams fan. I absolutely hate their new logo. And I'm going to say this, and I have a lot of their attire. I have 4 jerseys. I love my Rams. The new logo kind of looks like, and if there's any women listening, I'm not trying to offend you, but it kind of looks like a women's uterus and fallopian tubes. I'm just going to say that. It's terrible. I hate it. I mean, I don't know how the hell you're supposed to look at it and go, that's a ram. I loved when the Rams were still in St. Louis and came out with the jersey redo, or when they redid the jerseys in 2000 to the navy and the gold. I loved that Rams logo. I absolutely did. I can't say I hate the logo. I mean, I love the color scheme. Okay. I just love the blue and gold. I think it's great together, but the logo could have used some work. It kind of looks like one of those defunct logos on the old Madden game.
Well, you look at you look at the Rams logo history.
Thank you.
The 2 that are in the middle are the ones we're most familiar with. I know we can't get the full logo at the moment of the one on the left. And I don't give a shit enough about the one on the right.
I do like the LA with the the horn that looks like a wave through it. I like that one. I just don't like the new Rams face.
Well, I don't like the face of the
owner. I know you don't, but remember, I don't like the owner. I like the team.
I know. I mean, I get that.
Speaking of former St. Louis Rams, Robert Quinn got traded today to the Eagles.
Yes, he did. He got traded today from the Chicago Bears, and he
went from hell to heaven.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you this, right? So, looking up the original Rams logo, one of the original Rams logos,
the one from Cleveland.
So yeah, there is a good rendition, folks, of on the left what the original Rams logo is. Yes, they started out as the Cleveland Rams, then they moved to Los Angeles, then they moved to St. Louis, and then because Stan Kroenke's a greedy asshole, and so is his puppet boyfriend Jerry Jones, moved back to Los Angeles. And then we get the ugly abomination that is the logo on the right side of your screen.
Yeah, the one on the right side does have a Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now. Look at the one in the 2 in the middle. Put them together, and they got a Super Bowl trophy too.
That's true. They do.
And you know what? It's still here in St. Louis.
I know that.
So, you know what? And later on in this, we're going to get into some of the controversial logos. Here's another logo in the history of sports that I think was actually a landmark because it showcased so much more than just the team.
I like that logo.
I loved this logo, and I'm going to tell you something. Look, the Astros, especially given it's the World Series between the Astros and the Phillies right now, I think it's fitting we show this, and then I'm going to show some Phillies logos. But this one, because the Astrodome was the first of its kind, it was like the 8th wonder of the world. I mean, it was unbelievable. It's a shame I mean, it's on the Register of Historic Places, which is why it's not getting demolished. But they're
Right.
trying to renovate it to where they can keep it going.
I see that logo, and you know what I think of, Jeremy? I think of the original Bad News Bears movie when they
Yeah,
play inside the Astrodome. Yeah, it's the first thing I thought of.
do. And so, like I said, the Houston Astros are going to be originally they were the Houston Colt 45s.
Colt
Um,
45. Sorry,
so
I better not sing that.
no, you're fine. So now we get to if I can pull it up, yes, I can. The history of the Philadelphia Phillies. And they once again. Now, question: did you know that the Phillies had the most losses in baseball history?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they have the most losses in professional sports history.
I know it.
And it's funny to think about. But part of that is just age. I mean, come on.
Longevity.
So here's the Phillies. And of these, and I'm telling you right now.
Whoa. What? Why in the hell did at one point in time they have a bird as a mascot or as a logo? The 44-45 season?
Yeah.
A Philly's not a bird. A Philly's a horse.
Right. But see, that's the interesting thing. I look at some of the logos like the ones from 1976 on. First off, I love the ones where the P is just kind of curly, like the ones in 1981, and then you go to 82 through 91. I really like those logos. But an underrated gem here has to be the one from 76 to 1980.
Oh, I do like that.
With the two men shaking hands, the Quakers. Yeah, the Quakers, shaking hands. I like that. That's one I have not seen much actually in my life. So to finally get to see that is really refreshing. And then there's not much difference between the one they have now and the one that they had when I was growing up, but still, they honor the city very well.
For sure.
I
see the first curly P, and the first person I think of is Mike Schmidt.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So then you go, okay, we're going to go to perhaps this one is interesting. So we're going to go to if I can find them. Oh, goodness. There's so many different logo history. Now, keep in mind, there's so many logos. So we're doing our best with this, but I will say, for the St. Louis audience, we have ourselves the logo history for the most part of the St. Louis Cardinals. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, and let me actually remove the banner for a second up at the top, because we are way past that. The one from 67 and 97 is my 100% favorite, and you can never change my mind.
So my favorite one is the one from 29 to 48. I love that. I don't know what it is about that, but so they have the and you obviously know this because you play MLB The Show. They have that jersey on the game, and I use that jersey all the time. I absolutely love that. Was those Sportsman's Park jerseys, correct?
Yes, those were the
ones. Okay, yeah,
Park.
That's what I thought, because they had the scoreboard where they had the two birds on the bat on top of it. When the home run, it would light up. That by far is my favorite logo. I mean, but tell me that's absolutely one of the classiest, most well done logos in professional sports.
Yeah, I think in general when it comes to the Cardinals. Now, I will tell you right now, that brings me, and like I said, I'm going to mention, in some cases, we're going to talk about jerseys, and some of our favorites and some of our least favorites. This brings me to what I consider it's an era that so many teams went through. I mean, the Royals, the Phillies, the Cardinals.
Baby blue era.
The powder blue, baby blue era.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can you not love those jerseys? I love,
shoot the puck.
They just scream Whitey ball. That's what I consider when I think of it. So yeah, and now we have to go back to another
Well, hang on. While we're talking about St. Louis logos, I mean, that kind of brings up the new reverse retro sweaters that the Blues released and the logo that was, well, never used.
Yeah. In fact, I'll pull that up right now. I'll pull up the. Oh well, I can if it just gives me. If it'll just work with me. Because yes, the Blues are working on reverse retros for jerseys and beanies.
And trust me, I will wear it when it comes in.
I will too. So this is what the leak of the jersey looks like.
Ah, God, I love it.
That is old school.
I pre-ordered mine. As soon as I saw the release link, I was on it.
I think that is so old school, so cool. This is what the beanie looks like.
Yeah,
as far as
man.
what the material. So, and there's a logo for you that just, and because that's the thing. That's what the Blues. It's the note. It's blues music. That's where
Yes.
the roots of it come from.
The team is not named after a damn color. Can we please get that through people's heads?
Like,
it's okay if a jersey has red in it or yellow in it. We weren't named after a color. We're named after blues music.
Right. And so that is where we I'm going to transition. Well, since we're going to keep the St. Louis Blues, we're talking about them. I'm going to show the history of the St. Louis Blues logo. If I can just pull that up, which I have on standby for this occasion. And here we go. So here's the history of the St. Louis Blues logos. Yes, St. Louis, not Los Angeles Blues, not Dallas Blues, not Vancouver Blues. No, this is all St. Louis Blue, baby. We love it. We all bleed blue. Even the years where we kept getting knocked out in the first round, because why not? So as you can, there's not a whole lot of variation as much. Like I said, we've had the same logo since 2008, but at the same time, in a lot of cases, the jerseys represent a lot of history too. There's a lot of history with different eras. Your Brett Hall era, your Bernie Federico era, your Plager Brothers era,
right?
Which is where the first era, which the very first logo, basically is Barkley, Bill, and Bobby.
Yep.
The Plager brothers. And yeah, I love it. So with that, now we're going to go to the Kansas City side because this is where it gets interesting because the Chiefs have not always been the Chiefs. In fact, the Chiefs have not always been Kansas City. For those that don't know, the Kansas City Chiefs started out in Dallas as the Dallas Texans. And this is what their logo history looks like. As you can clearly, and you see a lot of people nowadays don't like to really represent the logo from 63 to 71 because, the stereotypes. But what people also got to understand that, like, the history of the Chiefs name. James, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
No, you know more about the Kansas City side of things than I do, so I'll let you stay there. I don't want to get anything wrong.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, the reason the Chiefs they were named for H. Rowe Bartle, who was the mayor of Kansas City in the early 60s. He was nicknamed Chief, and he was instrumental in attracting Lamar Hunt's AFL franchise because they were in the AFL originally. So that's why. Wasn't because of anything. Now, with that said, a lot of people, once again, with the whole controversy, which we're going to get into in not too distant future on this segment. So, hang on. Let me take care of that. Okay. Nevertheless, yeah. Now, going back to Dallas, I guess it's only fitting that we have the Dallas Cowboys logo history as well. And we have to start with the history of where the Dallas Cowboys I gotta find the perfect picture because Jerry Jones has created a new logo that they plan on unveiling in 2023 for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it's interesting. So this is what the new logo looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of knew there was somewhere was going there. Yeah.
That's the new logo that's going to be unveiled by Jerry Jones because that's what the Cowboys are.
Yep.
Okay. Nevertheless, this is actually what we're talking about when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. They've only really had 2 logos because I mean it's not too much to it. I'm not even joking with you, James. That's
I know.
literally what it's been.
I know.
Same thing since 1964. Now the helmets and the jerseys have changed, but the logos stayed the same for the most part. So who do you consider when you think of bad sports logos? Who is one that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, obviously, anything that has to do with the former Washington football team that's owned by Dan Snyder, that the name that was changed to the football team and then to the Commanders. So obviously that logo, and then obviously the Atlanta Braves one that we talked about a little bit last week. Both of those I felt are disrespectful. So those are really the big two that I don't care for, don't like. Um, I, I'm trying to think if there's really, I mean, the San Diego Padres have always had a really cool logo. I know a lot of people didn't care for those ugly, just brown and mustard colored jerseys. Uh, but really, the one I just can't stand, well, other than the winged wheel in Detroit, I get why the logo is what it is. I just, obviously as Blues fans, that's kind of given us PTSD in a hockey sense over the years. But yeah, the two that I mentioned, those are the two for sure that I just never been a fan of.
So, and that is where we're going to start getting into a lot of the controversial part, and I think, well, if I can find it, because I know I have it, it's just on here somewhere. Did that one not show up? Okay. Well, this is what you were talking about in the past.
Yeah, that's Chief Wahoo. Yeah.
And, yeah, it's not pleasant to look at. And yeah, it definitely sucks that this is where it's come to.
Yeah.
So they changed. Not only did the Cleveland Indians change their logo to just the C, but they changed their name to the Guardians. And it's totally understandable as to why. And interestingly enough, though, their franchise isn't the only one that's had some really bad logos. Which brings me to the Boston/Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves. Folks, okay, yes, viewer discretion is advised for the sake of political correctness and actual morals, because this is not something that we approve of with some of these old logos. Particularly the ones that are prior to basically 1990. As you can tell, some of the B's are from when they were in the Boston Braves. But you look at the ones that are in the 60s and in the 70s, and you just wonder why. And you got to understand this was during an era when out at Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, they had their mascot was a guy named Chief Nakahoma, who was an Indian who would come out of a teepee that was in the bleachers and would come out and do a dance every time the Braves hit a home run, which I would put $1,000, I put $1 million to say that would not even remotely happen today.
No.
Chief Nakahoma would not be happening today. And I believe the original Chief Nakahoma is still alive, actually, but excuse me. Then we get to perhaps the one that leads to the most controversy, and that's what the Commanders used to be. And that, of course, is the Washington Redskins. And yeah, there's a reason that these types of logos do not exist anymore, which makes it surprising to me that logos or that teams and logos such as the Blackhawks are still around.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but also Florida State. But we kind of talked about this off air after the show last week. It's because there is X amount of dollars being paid to Native Americans that, either are of the Seminole tribe in Florida State's case, or are of, like, likeness wise, logo wise, of the tribes for the Blackhawks. So, and the Blackhawk tribe alone. So, money still talks, even though we're trying to be politically correct, rather, money still has quite the pull when it comes to whether or not Native American tribes are offended or not.
Yeah, I
Which doesn't
definitely
make it right, by the way. There should be
Right.
no amount of money that makes it okay.
Exactly, and that's the thing. So here is another logo, to get away from that controversial one. Here's a logo of a team that, once again, doesn't. Hopefully this logo will work. It might not. Oh shoot. Well, give me 1 second while I put it together.
Okay.
That, gosh darn it, that's the funny thing. Some of these logos do not want to.
Well, here
And oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
say I'd give an update on the Blues game real quick. We've
Yeah,
got
when you do that.
2:30 left in the second period. Edmonton still leads St. Louis 1-0. The Blues are out shooting Edmonton 22-16. Had some really good chances on net, but still haven't been able to crack their goaltender Skinner. So 2 minutes to go. We're still Blues have not scored a goal since that game against Edmonton in Edmonton.
Yeah,
The
and
first period power play goal by Torrey Krug, but that's the last time they've scored was in the first period on Saturday.
So, okay, here we go. We got the logo. It's an NBA. We're going to the NBA now. We're going to flip over to the NBA. We haven't talked about them much tonight in this logo segment. Okay. How much do you miss the Seattle Supersonics?
Boy, they were a good team too. Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, yeah, those
Ray
guys.
Allen.
Nate McMillan, yep, Nate McMillan.
And the way they got screwed out of their team. And the problem is, okay, we're going to just use the Cleveland Browns as an example. When they moved from Cleveland to Baltimore, Cleveland, the city, filed a lawsuit and they won, in where they got to keep the history of the team and everything. So basically, the franchise history remained in Cleveland, but it was just, and then Baltimore just became a new expansion team with the
Right.
Ravens. When Montreal moved to Washington to become the Nationals, the Expos history went with them.
Yep.
Just like when Seattle Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City to become the Thunder, the history, basically as far as championships and such go, they got to keep the colors and the jerseys and whatnot, but as far as the championships and everything goes, that's down there. And I think that's just absolute bull crap. I think the city's history, if a team moves, the history should stay with the city.
Right.
Because I don't know. I just don't think it's fair to the city to have to deal with that crap.
I understand. I agree.
I really don't. And I'm going to tell you right now, NBA logos are some of my favorite logos, because especially like some retro ones. I think if you go back to, oh gosh, if I can just find it, hang on. Once again, struggling to get some of these. Here we go. Now, most people know the Memphis Grizzlies, especially if you follow basketball. But we're going to turn back the clock about 20 years, and we're going to go back to when they were the Vancouver Grizzlies. And this is what the Vancouver Grizzlies looked like. Now, you want to talk, you're dressed up like a lion, James, but I'll be honest, are you going to mess with that bear?
No.
I'm sure as hell not.
And Memphis actually still pays homage to those jerseys. That is their, what they refer to as their city jerseys. They go back to that logo and those colors.
Yeah. And I absolutely see that those are the types. Now, we talk about the Colorado Avalanche, and how much you can't stand their jerseys.
Correct.
But I'm going to tell you right now that the city of Denver might very well be home to one of the greatest logos in the history of professional sports. And I'm going to show you right here, folks. The Denver Nuggets. Now that is an awesome logo.
Looks like something out of Tetris.
That's what I'm saying. But look at how it's colorful. It has the Rocky Mountains in the background. I mean, yeah, obviously it just says Denver Nuggets right there. But I just love the artwork of this to really brighten it up. So that's one in particular I absolutely love. They also, if you want to have a little bit more of a comedic Denver Nuggets one, they have another one as well, which I'm about to post.
Yes, Blues tie it up.
There you go. Okay, awesome.
Power play goal with 4.4 seconds to go in the second period.
Oh wow!
It's Ryan O'Reilly. Hey, yeah, it's kind of my emotion right now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Oh gosh, what is his name? Hang on. Crap. What is? Oh, don't tell me.
Sami Zayn.
No, not Sami Zayn.
He kind of looks like him with the red hair.
Oh, I know now. Yukon Cornelius from the Rankin Bass, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's what he looks like. He looks like Yukon Cornelius. So yeah, and you know what's interesting? Let's see. Here, so we talk another one. We're gonna do another NBA one. Like I said, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp alongside Hollywood James Knox. He is incredibly sweaty right now because he's in a lion costume.
It's not so bad once you take the hair off. I'm going to dread wearing this thing this weekend for a softball tournament, though.
Oh, gosh. Well, nevertheless, and I'm supposed to be a blind referee, but I magically got my sight back when I realized that 2022 medicine. Anyway, San Antonio Spurs, ladies and gentlemen. And this is their their old school logo. And once again, there was just a lot of creativity. I feel like logos have gotten so dull these days. And I don't know. I think
it all has to do with color scheme too. Like, I mean, that color there, like, it's not your traditional blue. It's not a traditional red or a pink. It's not a traditional orange. They're like shades of colors. They make it work. There's like their jerseys, like if they were just black and white, they would be so boring.
Right. I mean, and there's all kinds of things out there about the best and the worst sports logos. Here's an interesting one. Here's another one that I actually really enjoyed. It's had multiple different changes over the years. I don't think it's going to let me share it, but I'll have to look it up again. And that's the thing. One thing interesting about the wonderful world we live on. Sometimes it's not going to let you put on every logo that you want to show, but that's okay. We're always prepared. So here we go. We're going to the NHL, courtesy of da-na-na-na-na.
I was just thinking that because, I mean, is that not the Mighty Ducks logo?
The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. I love it. Only this team literally existed because of the Mighty Ducks movie by Disney.
Quack.
Like, quack is whack. The only reason this team exists is because of Walt Disney and the success of the movie. I mean, kind of like the Angels only exist because of Gene Autry.
Yeah.
And once again, there's one. Hang on 1 second. If I can find it. I don't. It's here somewhere. Here's an old school logo that I also really like. And speaking of the Angels, there we go. This is back from 86 to 92 when they were just the California Angels.
Yep.
So, yeah, I definitely enjoy that one. So, we talked about some of the best, some of the worst, and there's so many more worst ones. But now we talk about teams, but let's talk about the best logo in general for a promotion, or not for a promotion, for a league. And I'll be honest, one of my favorites has to go to the NBA. And the reason is, everybody be like, oh, but you're a big football fan. It's the Shield, Okay, well, first off, the Shield is nothing but a bunch of puppets. Second, the NBA logo is literally honoring one of their players, one of their former players, Jerry West.
Jerry West, yeah.
So, yeah, for people that don't know, the silhouette, the NBA player that is on that silhouette is Jerry West of the Los Angeles Lakers. Let me pull up that logo right now. And there you go. So that was modeled after Jerry West, and I've always been a fan of that. The NFL Shield is cool and all, but I don't know. James, what are your thoughts? Do you have a particular favorite league logo?
I used to really, really, really like the Major League Baseball logo. But I mean, I don't know. I do like the NBA one because it does honor Jerry West. The NFL, the Shield is the Shield. I mean, they're all pretty recognizable. The NHL, the old NHL logo, the one that had the orange outline, I did like that one. I mean, but I think probably out of all of them, the NBA logo is probably the most recognizable. And obviously, honoring Jerry West is pretty cool. I mean, like you said, the Shield is the Shield. So,
here is, if I can find it, perhaps one of the most famous non-Big Four sports logos of all time. And so we're talking about a logo that doesn't involve football, baseball, basketball, or hockey.
yeah, that one's really changed a lot.
The WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, better now known as World Wrestling Entertainment, otherwise known as WWE. This was during the Attitude Era, which was arguably the most popular period in the promotion's history. Everything was sky high as far as ratings and merchandise and everything. So, yeah, definitely there. I will tell you how amazing that logo is. But even WWE had an amazing logo history.
Yeah.
And there's so much. And excuse me. I love how when you look it up, in most cases you'll get the panda, but we're not talking about the panda, folks. The panda is the reason WWF doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. You're wondering about the logos. Well, it's simple. Here we go. This dates back to the early 60s and 50s when it was the Capital Wrestling Federation. And this is passed down from McMahon to McMahon, basically to McMahon, to Triple H in there.
Yep.
But yes, the era I grew up in was a combination. I wasn't watching wrestling during the Attitude Era. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I was too young. I remember vaguely, like sometimes I'd be channel surfing and I'd see some stuff on there, but where the ruthless aggression era is, which is the one that starts at 2002. That's what I grew up watching. Um, you know, the eras of the 80s are the ones where Hulk Hogan really reigned supreme. You know, you had your Hogans, your Andre the Giants, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man. Attitude, the new generation logo, the yellow one, which was a very popular one. You had your Shawn Michaels, your Bret Harts, your Stone Colds, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. And it's just amazing how much even wrestling promotion logos change as time goes on. And whereas a lot of cases, leagues change their logos to like WWE has changed their logo always to promote something new.
Yep.
The new generation was because it was a new style. The Attitude Era was because it was drifting away from family friendly stuff and going into more hardcore, edgy product. Ruthless Aggression was because two pissed off pandas decided not to let this slide anymore using their letters, but they decided to go in a new direction. And now the WWE logo now looks more digital, technological, kind
More
of in the
futuristic.
direction more futuristic, which is kind of the vision of where WWE is. I guess now we come to I have to show this. This is interesting for me because folks have wondered when I talk about Cleveland, when I talk about the Cleveland Browns, James has brought up in the past about there being an elf on the middle of the field. And some people have asked me, where the hell has that elf come from? Well, there he is, Brownie the Elf, which, I mean, it's an old school history. The Cleveland Browns have been around since the 1940s, and I dig the old school helmet styles, where it's more two-dimensional. But as you can tell, they're unique because they're the only NFL team that doesn't per se have a logo.
Yep.
Their orange helmets are the logo, which is the interesting thing about them in this regard. The Cincinnati Bengals used to have a style just like them, except it had the word Bengals right on it, right across the middle in black letters. It was simple enough. I will show you, and this to me is, we got to get a couple college logos, because I mean, I'm telling you right now, there is so many to choose from. And it is interesting because, and this is the part, folks, where if you want to ever like tune it, like look back, watch back on the show and hang on. And just kind of pause the show for a second. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports this week. I'm just thankful to have you guys on and tuning in alongside Hollywood James Knox. And here we go with our lovely college football logo map.
Yep.
I mean, you got your Boise State, you got Montana, you got North Dakota State University up there, you got Minnesota, Mizzou, the Illini, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, good old Texas Longhorns. Of course, you got Arizona and Arizona State. You got Cal, you got UCLA, Stanford. I mean, the majority of the big schools are on this map. And this is the part where fans of college sports can go on here and try to find where their favorite team is if it's on there. And if not, well, I'm sorry, but shit happens. And I love how Michigan is literally split in two.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I love the most. The fact Michigan's split directly in two. I
Right.
love that Kansas is split between the Jayhawks and the Wildcats. Wildcats, or give the Jayhawks some love. And even in Oregon, you had the Oregon State Beavers that are even shown. You got Washington and Washington State. I mean, UNLV is on there. Utah, BYU, Colorado State. You do got majority, but as you can notice, we'll take it for example for Mizzou in Missouri. You don't have Southeast Missouri State. You don't have Mo State. That Alistair Fennell covers extensively on I-70 Sports Media. You don't have Southwestern Missouri State. You don't got UCM, Lindenwood. And that's just the same example for a lot of states you can make. It just happens that we're talking about the one here in College Town. So, James, which college one really stands out to you when you think of?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Alabama fan, so I'm obviously going to think there. But obviously, and Big Al was part of their logo, back, in history. But I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. Obviously, we talk about logos. Illinois changed theirs a little bit because they obviously were the Fighting Illini. They had an Indian mascot, so that one had to change. I like Mizzou. I think the tiger head is cool. But I mean, obviously, you've got the Gators. You've got plenty just to choose from. That's the one thing I like about college is like some of these mascots and logos are just out there. Like you got Maryland, the Terrapins, and there's just a big fighting turtle.
Yeah, there, and that's the thing. There's so many colleges to choose from and everything. The logos are extensive, and I'm very intrigued that you brought, and I'm very thankful that you brought up from Mizzou because you brought up the Tigers, which brings me to my next logo. Or even better.
Yeah, that's the Psycho Cat.
We are back to the Psycho Cat. That folks, keep in mind, this is where we started an hour ago.
Yeah.
With the beginning of this. The 1927-28 Detroit Tigers. At the end of the day, for me, take out the St. Louis Cardinals because, I mean, they're like my go-to sports team, and I'll ride that till the day I die. The Expos and the Hartford Whalers are probably my favorite sports logos. There's just, you identify with their history because, yeah, neither of them were truly successful. But the eras they were in, it's like, oh, I remember when they were in the league.
Yep.
I remember when Montreal was in the league. I remember when they moved. I have a Montreal Expos pennant still. And I have some other memorabilia from Montreal. The Arizona Cardinals aren't too different from the St. Louis football Cardinals, so their logo history hasn't exactly changed too much. But once again, the jerseys have. And I guess we're going to I will show one more logo before we begin closing it up because it involves what we've talked about a little bit on the past couple weeks. Because when talking about baseball, we have to talk about the history of a team in particular that has moved around a lot. And when I mean a lot, I mean they've moved around a lot. And they're poised to move again. And I don't think it's going to be stopped. And that is the Athletics. Because whether they were in Oakland or in Philadelphia, or even what people don't realize, for a while they were in Kansas City.
Yep.
In the 50s and 60s, they were the Kansas City A's. So I'm more familiar with the last three logos. But it's interesting when you got the elephant logos involved. This was a team that was owned by Connie Mack, who's the winningest manager in baseball history. But it's funny because he's also the losingest manager in baseball history. He owned the Athletics. Oh, gosh. Let's see. I believe he owned them for over 50 years. Let me just double check on this. I want to say, yeah, He managed them for the first 50 seasons of play. He retired in 1950 at the age of 87. So there's another thing you're never going to see, although Tony La Russa tried. You're never going to see a manager manage that late into age. Dusty Baker, 73, he's still going strong, but Tony La Russa, man, I'd love you, but I'm glad you're retiring. So yeah, and once here's something. His complete win percentage is definitely 486. So he's below 500. His win total and loss total are a lot more than Tony La Russa and John McGraw. In fact, his losses, he has 1,400 more losses than Tony La Russa does. And Tony La Russa's in second. So if that doesn't tell you anything, he had multiple 400 win seasons. He had 5 of them. But nevertheless, like I said, the reason I brought up the A's before we closed is because they're probably going to move to Vegas, I feel like, or somewhere, because Oakland is just failing miserably to keep the team there.
Agreed.
But like I said, we're going to close with another happy logo. I love it.
Look, man, that psycho-ass tiger is not happy, nor is he pleasant.
Okay, well, this one's just kind of misunderstood. That one's misunderstood.
He's depressed. There we go. That's better.
There we go. That's better. Actually, you know what? There is a logo that I've been meaning to save for James. It's not a tiger because for the past 2 weeks now, I have absolutely tormented him with that logo.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'll never do it again, but I might.
Okay.
I don't intend on it, but we'll see. So You may be wondering what logo I'm going to go with next. It's an iconic team, retro, and yeah.
I hate that damn logo.
Now, folks, okay, before we close, I have to just put this in perspective. How is it that this became this? If that's not one of the most depressing things I've witnessed, I don't know.
Yep.
It hurts.
Location,
man. Well, I love Denver. I love Colorado, but man,
hate them.
I got some things to say about the Avalanche, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's better off.
Yeah. In fact, I got one. Oh gosh, let's see if I can pronounce it. To the Colorado Avalanche. Late fier foutuya. There we go.
Okay.
That's in French. Did I botch it up? Probably, but
a little bit. It's
all
right.
We're gonna let the translators figure out exactly what I said. Nevertheless, folks, thank you so much. This has been a great, spectacular Halloween special. No, I'm not dressed up like Beetlejuice. I am a blind referee, and he is a cowardly lion. And I'm telling you right now, folks, it has been an absolute pleasure here on Roundabout Sports. He's putting on the very hot,
of course,
dreads, the hair. And for the record, James is very brave to be on. As you can't, if you haven't been able to tell, he has a badge of courage on.
What's that? What did you say?
I said you got your badge of courage. I said you were a brave man to be on the show, a brave lion. See, there you go. He's got the badge. He's got the bow.
My curls are all messed up.
Exactly.
Curls.
It's fine. Oh, your curl. Oh,
my ears in the middle of my head. What the hell's going on here?
I was gonna say I don't even know where your ears are anymore.
You can see them, kind of.
No, I meant your real ears.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, they're long gone. I can see one of them. All right, folks.
I look like Fabio with the hair.
You look like Fabio. Yeah, you look like Fabio.
Yeah, get out of here.
If he meshed with Grizzly Adams. Okay.
So, get us out of here.
Get us out of here, folks. Let me tell you something. It has been absolute fun. And I'm telling you right now, oh my gosh. So
it's been perfect.
It has been perfect. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Next week is we're going to look forward to another show at 7 o'clock Central Time. Now, before we go, I always, as always, want to include the NAMI hotline for mental awareness. And NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have a 24/7 hotline. Excuse me, it is 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. And also, we have the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline we put on the air at the end of every show. And you just have to dial 988. It used to be a long number, but they cut it down to 3 numbers. It's open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that all you have to do is just pick up a phone, make that call, understand that you're never alone in this world and somebody out there loves you. James and I are absolutely honored to be able to do this every week, and we have such a blast. So thank you for letting us into your homes, wherever you listen to, or at the gym, wherever the heck you listen to this show at. It's just a great pleasure for both of us. And be sure to check out the Strike Zone. James will keep you posted on that as far as air dates. Be sure to check out the Wrestle Talk podcast every Tuesday night from 7 to 9 o'clock. Always one of the most popular wrestling podcasts out there. The guys there are amazing at what they do. So, with that, thank you so much for tuning in, folks. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp. He's the Cowardly Lion, Hollywood James Knox. And always remember, folks, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth